Fanspeak, where the plan runs deep. The team grind hard, don't eat, don't sleep. From best ball dreams to DFS streaks, they help you print money every single week. Fanspeak. No cap, no gimmicks, we breaking limits. NFL bets, yeah, we live this business. Meg and Steve, that OG vision. Draft room killers on a lifelong mission. More stress to the Sunday spread. Fanspeak's that voice that's inside your head. Best ball, DFS, NFL bets. They built it brick by brick, no regrets. Fanspeak team, printing money since day one. Fanspeak, forever.
Welcome back to another lunchtime episode of Talking Ball Steve-O Speak. It is Combine Week. It is time to talk rookies, talk, with GMs and coaches are on the mic all week, having press conferences, giving states of the franchise. A lot of tidbits coming out every single day. Some, I think, have a lot of smoke. Others, probably not so much. But I think there's going to be a lot to talk about every day this week. I'm planning on going live every day at some point this week. Really excited as we get into Combine Week. And I think we start to see ADPs change, some with the free agent and trade rumors and others with what we're seeing on the Combine field. So reports are going to come out every day. We're going to try and keep talking about it, enjoy it, and get into it. We got Mike Robb checking in. Steve is about to drown in NFL Network coverage. That's somewhat true. Who Hames checking in. I will be on with Who Hames and also talking about the Combine after this stream at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, so 2 p.m. Central. On Who Hames channel. I will definitely drop a link before we get out of here. So my plan today is to do 2 drafts, just talk ball in between. And thank you everyone. We got Jamie checking in. And speaking of being a YouTube member, we got Hartman joining the dark side. Appreciate you, Hartman. Hope you're doing well. And Meg checking in as well. So thank you everyone. We are going to get into the first draft. Since I want to do 2 drafts, I want to make sure. Last week I kind of went up right to the wire, ready to jump on Who Hames channel. So maybe I want to give myself a little bit more leeway today. So I'm getting into the first draft, but we can talk rookies. We can talk Combine news all throughout. And but let me enter the first draft here. I'm going to enter in 10 seconds. Entering in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, enter. And the first piece of Combine news I'll talk about, I just posted, did an article for our Substack. As you can see in the link below, you can join our Substack, get 1 week free trial, and then it's a one-time payment, $34.99 for an entire year for all best ball, all our DFS and sports betting coverage in season, the underdog dailies, etc. So, but I just wrote an article talking about the quarterback carousel, talking about the various free agent and trade / cut options out there. And I get on Twitter today, and there seems to be some smoke with this. Teams calling Tyson Badgett, the Bears, about Tyson Badgett as a quarterback option. I did not mention him; he was not on my short list. So that'll be interesting to see if something happens, what they might trade him for. But no, I do think just looking at the quarterback market, and still up in the air on some of these situations like the Aaron Rodgers coming back, it does sound more and more like Daniel Jones will be back with the Colts. So kind of locking that in. But I really think the Kyler Murray and Malik Willis situations are 2 interesting ones. These guys are pretty much locked in as starters. And right now, due to the uncertainty, we're taking them just too late. And, I'm ahead of the field right now on both. And I want to just keep grabbing those prices because I do think they go up once we get landing spots for them. And currently right now, Kyler is going as QB 25 and Malik Willis as QB 24. As a spoiler note, Kyler has not finished below quarterback 20 in points per game in any season in his NFL career. And 6 of those 7 seasons, he's finished quarterback 12 or better in points per game. Yes, there are some injury concerns, but that's just a lot of surplus value right there. And so I just feel like I'm going to be taking more and more of him and Malik Willis, who, you know, arguably had one of the worst rookie performances in recent memory. Back in 2022 with the Titans, and his last 2 years, just a handful of games with the Packers, but showed to be just a completely different quarterback. Still waiting on 2 people for this big board. So hopefully we'll get this filled soon. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where these quarterbacks end up. Yeah, Meg excited for Hartman joining the Fanspeak fam. Mike Robb as well. And Meg saying surprised to see the Badger. I believe she meant Badgett news. Yeah, and I do think as I wrote, there's a lot of like questionable options right out there in the quarterback market. So maybe some team views Badger as just a better option. So I'm in here in the 4th spot. I recognize names like Sweetleaf and Danimal, who've been in a lot of my drafts recently. If you're in, jump in and say hi. Appreciate that, of course, as well. But don't recognize any other names. If anyone else is in here, definitely drop a message. Another note on Kyler: he can only go on 42 of the rides at Disney due to his height. That is fair, and I mean, there's just no question. If Kyler was, 6'2", like he would be a top 5 quarterback. No question. So coming up here goes Bijan Gibbs. We'll take whoever Puka and Chase are left for me and start it out that way. And there's Danimal. Appreciate it. GM. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I've seen you in a lot of drafts. So love seeing you. Thank you for joining, and good luck to you. Hopefully we both come out of this pod. Meg mixing up animals again. Yeah, not necessarily a strong suit. I do think that I'm hoping that was autocorrect. I had a draft yesterday with Kyler and Bryce. Give him a trench coat and we got a QB. Yeah, no. Bryce Young, I've taken quite a bit, but I wonder if we see more upside. I was disappointed with how he did last year. Obviously, he got injured, missed a little time, but barely cracking 3,000 yards, 23 touchdowns. Honestly, for number of attempts, 23 touchdowns isn't bad. But his rushing went down, which was not ideal. And he's got a bunch of trench coats, so ask him. Right, nothing too surprising in the first round so far. We continue to see the Jefferson kind of getting locked into this 11, 12, 13, 14 range. And I think it makes sense. That is one thing. And I don't see them going Tyson Badger. I think they're looking for a veteran, whether somebody in the, Cousins, Geno, Joe Flacco, probably the lowest of that tier, maybe even Derek Carr, or like a long-term answer, which would be like a 1-year stopgap to see if you still have anything with JJ, or the long-term answer of Kyler or Malik Willis. I think there's a lot there that could make sense. I actually think, just looking at it, assuming Daniel Jones is back with the Colts, Mendoza to the Raiders, I think the Cardinals and Vikings might be the 2 most intriguing options out there for a new quarterback. Let's see here. We'll take the Neighbors slide. This is where I think he should go. So I'll start 2 receivers here. It's because if you take away those 2 teams, Colts and Raiders, and Steelers are most likely to go Aaron Rodgers. If he does retire, then I think they become interesting. They have some money. Obviously, Mike McCarthy has been a good offensive coach. You look at where his quarterbacks have finished, albeit mainly Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott, but they finished extremely well. So I think that's a semi-interesting spot. But then you kind of have the bad spots, the Jets, Dolphins, Browns. None of those feel fun. None of those feel exciting. Jets at least have money, so they could maybe add some pieces, but it feels like hold on one second. We'll take Jacob, so we won't go 3 wide receivers in a row. But it feels kind of like a lame duck coaching situation. So maybe a trade for Kyler, but I don't see Malik Willis going there. Just personally, if I was his agent, I wouldn't exactly be telling him to sign in New York without knowing who the long-term answer is. But Arizona and Minnesota, I think, are perhaps the most interesting. One, I think Kevin O'Connell is a very established. You have Justin Jefferson, one of the best, 3-4 just raw talent receivers in the league. Jordan Addison also in the mix. Other weapons are a bit more questionable, particularly if Hawkinson and or Aaron Jones are cut or traded. And, Jalen Naylor might be not returning. But, still, Jefferson and Addison are one hell of a start. And the offensive line should be at least above average. They continue to deal with injuries, but they have made investment in it. So I feel relatively good about that. And then the Cardinals, I think are very interesting as well. Obviously, Trey McBride, one of the best tight ends in the league. Whatever you think of Marv, he is better than quite a few receiver situations in the league. And of course, Michael Wilson had a bit of a breakout. Offensive line still needs some work, but is hardly worse in the league. It's not as bad as plenty of other situations out there. And of course, they have the 3rd overall pick. They could just take an offensive lineman in the 1st round. To really solidify. They could take the first offensive lineman available. Maybe not. They might go defense. They could go, like a corner or an edge guy. But I would think that they go offensive line, especially if they invest in either keeping Kyler Murray or signing Malik Willis. So ideally, one of those guys end up with the Cardinals. And I think it could be fun. I mean, we're talking about Mike LaFleur. Granted, he's not been a head coach before. His one offense coordinator stint was with the Jets and just in a terrible situation. But this is a guy who's been under Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay basically his entire career. Those are pretty good kingmakers. And, his brother has obviously had, also been in that tree, has had just a ton of success as well. So a lot to like there for Arizona. And I will point to, if those options fall through, if they just decide to move on from Kyler and they don't get Malik Willis, who Malik Willis has been with his brother, I do think Kirk Cousins, I know we point to him in Minnesota, but I actually think he could then be the Arizona fallback plan. I would mention that I think Cousins, his original quarterback coach was Sean McVay, was Matt LaFleur with Washington. And then Sean McVay took over as offense coordinator from Kyle Shanahan. So Mike LaFleur was not part of that staff. There's just a lot of connections there. He knows that Shanahan system, that Shanahan-McVay tree system quite well. And, Kevin O'Connell was part of that as well. So I just could see Kirk Cousins being kind of like the 3rd option, and honestly, probably even above Jacoby Brissett. Like my guess would be LaFleur and company would prefer like Cousins over Jacoby Brissett. Just my guess on that, but just kind of how you see it. I think if you kind of connect the dots. So like if for instance, Kyler goes to the Vikings or Malik Willis goes to the Vikings, and that's not an option for Cousins, I wouldn't be surprised to see Cousins end up in Arizona. And there he'd have a lot of weapons to play with. We got Chiato checking in. I think this year's class is going to be a disappointment. We don't have a hype name yet. You mean rookie class? Yeah, no, I mean, I think Jeremiah Love's been pretty hyped up. So I don't know if you're specifically talking about quarterbacks. Mendoza is truly the only rookie quarterback I have any consideration for. I think it's going to come down to the receivers, though. Like, there's a few interesting running backs, a few interesting tight ends. If the landing spots fit, then yeah, there could be value there. But it's going to be the receivers. I think we're going to have 5 first-round rookies, a bunch of early to mid-second rounders. I think by the end of the second round, we're probably talking about at least 10, if not 12 names off the board. And even into the third round, we can see some pretty solid landing spots and connections there. So I think that's where we're going to see most of the value. Right now, though, I think because we have like 3 rookies roughly valued the same, which is good because, you look back a couple of years ago and Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze went picks 4, 6, and 9, and they went, at the 1-2 turn, 2-3 turn for Harrison and Neighbors, and then Odunze is going in like the 60s, 70s. So, the fact that all 3 kind of go in the same area, I think is actually a value, and why I've said I want to have pieces of all 3. All right, so it's now sitting at 3-2. Picked up Scattaboo, picked up Javonte Williams, who's been climbing up boards, so I like getting him still. Ramondre sitting there is fun. I don't have any of these quarterbacks to pair. I think I'm gonna go Ramondre. As much as I like the Burrow value, I don't have a Bengal. And I just don't love Parker Washington or Michael Wilson. So I feel like then I'm pulling up, Ricky P or Alec Pierce, which is fine. It's just don't need to do that every time. So let me just really stabilize this backfield. Started 2 receivers, then hit 4 running backs in a row. Now I can pivot back. Where would Neighbors go if he was fully healthy? I think end of the first round. I think we saw even last year, he only played 4 games, only really dominated 1 game, but that was, with Russ and just a whole mess of situation in New York. So let's take Jackson Dart with the stack here. I take Dart a decent amount. Rarely have I had him stacked up with Neighbors. So I'll pull that up to prioritize that a little bit. But yeah, I think Neighbors would be absolutely pushing at the end of the first round, just because we know his ceiling upside is so high. But the injury is a real thing, and I do worry about him being 100% ready to go. So that's why I'm happy to take him kind of at the 2-3 turn, but not really at the 1-2 turn, where he probably would go if no injury. Let's go back to the board. So I'm now sitting at 1-4-2. That same build Sweetleaf has. Daniel's going 1-2-4. He started running back with the CMC Henry, like double anchor. Let's go. He did get the McLaurin Daniel stack. Got T. Higgins as well. Mike Evans, Parker Washington. So that's turned into a nice little team there. See, I'm probably not looking running back with these next couple of picks unless something falls to me. And more focused at the wide receiver, or maybe grabbing a second quarterback. Worthy or more? I think I will go Worthy. I just really think there's a lot more out there for him. Rice or no Rice for the Chiefs. Last year just got off to such a bad start with that injury in the third play of the game. Uh, hopefully that does not occur. But he just screams as a spike week guy, and you know, going in the 90s, I think is a lot of potential value for him. So I'm a big Denzel Boston fan. I think haven't heard yet if he's going to run at the combine. I hope he does. Does sound like Tyson is not doing any of the workouts at the combine. Lemon, from what I saw, is going to do the positional drills. Not sure if he's going to do the workout drills. If Tate does everything, that puts him in a great spot to be like the true one doing everything for scouts. I do think that helped Rome Odunze a couple years ago. Definitely helped guys like Brian Thomas Jr., Worthy, Lad McConkey, etc. So Boston also could help himself quite a bit. I'm going to pull up Boston, or it's just a few spots, but I think Boston over Wandale here. I just love his touchdown potential and upside. We need him to get a nice landing spot, but overall, I think this is a guy who's double-digit touchdown upside every single year. And that kind of, just ability is huge. For as much as we love Wandale with these 140 targets, 90 plus catches, obviously the yards jump here is a big thing. We just see the difference. He's a great person because you see what targets and catches mean versus yards and touchdowns. One touchdown difference, but over 300 yards difference means he got 30 plus more points, like 36 more points. And that went from him being like a 17th, 18th rounder to, worthy of a kind of like a 10th round selection. I've seen some buzz that Giants could look to bring him back. Harbaugh could view him in Zay Flowers' role. I think the question is, how does Matt Nagy view him more than anything? But I don't hate him coming back to the Giants. I probably think there's better options out there for Wandale. Maybe returning with Dable in Tennessee. I could see a couple other teams, make a lot of sense. Like, San Francisco, if they don't go for an X, like Ricky Pearsall can play inside outside, so you could bring Wandale into the slot. All right, he goes. But a team like Washington would absolutely use Wandale to replace Deebo Samuel. They need a chain mover. If Terry on the outside, but they need another weapon for sure. So I think Washington would be a nice fit. Steelers could be a great fit. Historically, Mike McCarthy offenses have done well with slot receivers. Wandale could be like the Randall Cobb type in his offense. Arm covers jumping in. Appreciate that. Saying Brees getting tagged. Is that, I can look it up in a second. Is that franchise or transition tag? Just curious if you've seen. Let's see what I do here. 117. All right, I'm going to get my guy be done at running back. Get one of these receivers come back to me, and I feel pretty good about my start. Stephen WC, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you too as well, Stephen. I'm saying BBG said transition. He's a Jets fan. Yeah, I mean, I know that was the kind of pending rumor of it being a transition tag. I mentioned this yesterday. Honestly, I think either like franchise 100% locks him for the Jets. Transition, theoretically, another team could offer him a deal. He could sign with it. Problem is the Jets then have the ability to, what they call right of first refusal. They could just match the offer. And given the Jets cap situation, I think they basically match just about anything thrown out there. I don't have a ton of Jane Reed. I'll take a Jane Reed shot here. Kind of like Higgins and could have gone Concepcion, but might as well get a little bit more Jane Reed. So 155. Pretty much done at running back, though. Need to catch up at the other positions. RPM saying franchise. Interesting. So, yeah, and I think, and they have essentially a week or more to figure it out. So, they could just end up with a long-term deal before then. Like even like the Pickens report or the Kyle Pitts report, you read between the fine lines and says like, yes, we're working on a long-term deal. So those might be, still a long-term deal over the franchise tag. No, RM covers. No, I said this on yesterday's stream about the transition tag. If that's what you're referencing, I think either way, at this point, it kind of sounds like Breece Hall's off the table. He's the Jet. Like, I think we should essentially treat him roughly the same way I've been treating Pickens and now Kyle Pitts. Like, they aren't going anywhere because even a transition tag, well, theoretically somebody can sign them to an offer sheet. Jets can match, and they have so much money, and it sounds like they're very determined that it's hard to believe that it would be offered some sort of contract that they would just not match. That also then limits like teams without a lot of cap situation are not going to be able to, like the Vikings, if they get rid of Aaron Jones, yeah, they could sign a veteran back, but for Breece Hall, it'd have to be a backloaded deal. So they definitely are off the table at that point. Just so many other teams just wouldn't make sense. And this is how I've been basically playing Breece Hall, but this just is more confirmation to me, like he's back with the Jets. And at that point, I don't love the price. Now, if they end up with like a Kyler Murray and their quarterback situation gets better and I just feel like the offense can generate enough reasonable points, then maybe I'd move up him a little bit. But I just have a tough time taking Breece Hall where he's currently going if he's going to be on the Jets, which is projected right now to be one of the worst offenses in the league. Speaking of Kyler, mentioned him earlier. I think there's just a lot of surplus value here. So I'm going to nab it. Kyler last year was bad. And granted, it was a small sample size last year, but he finished 20th in points per game, right between Baker Mayfield and Jordan Love. And both those guys dealt with some injuries as well and had down years. But we're just taking those guys, 115, 110. We're taking Kyler blind, 141. And the thing is, previous to that, Kyler's lowest points per game was 12. And even the injury concern, I think that's overblown because 2 of the years were the exact same injuries. The late season ACL injury, lost 6 games one year, then 9 to start the next year. So it's kind of like we double counted that injury, which feels a little unnecessary. Not my favorite wide receiver range. Not a quarterback range I really target. Let's go tight end. Juwan Johnson feels like a good option. Now, this is the one thing. If they do franchise tag him, they could do a tag and trade. The problem is I just don't know if other teams will because once you franchise him, you set his market. And I don't know if other teams want to do that. But the problem with the franchise tag for running backs is you have two guys essentially right now. Is it McCaffrey and Barkley, I think, who make more than the franchise tag, and Henry is like right behind it. So you're essentially saying for 1 year we'd pay him, in the McCaffrey, Barkley, Henry range. That's a lot. When especially when Javonte Williams is coming off, his best year, essentially just as young as Breece Hall. Both have had an ACL injury, and he got $8 million a year, and over 3 years, and even that, Cowboys could get out of that early if need be, etc. And that's what most of like ETN, Walker, and Hall, I think are all going to get over 10. They're going to be much more in the Kyron Williams range of contracts, which is like 12-ish million. But that's a couple million savings from the franchise tag, and it's much more palatable to pay a guy over 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 12 million. You can backload that. You can do a lot of creative things with it, and you're locking in those years at that price. Because if you franchise Hall this year, then next year his price is only going to, if he has a good year, it's only going to go up. So for other teams, they might not value, like if the Jets trying to tag and trade, other teams might just say we're out. It's not worth it for us. Still not looking quarterback in this range. Done at running back. I'm going to pull up Trey Harris. I haven't been gaining him as much recently. It feels like he's getting pulled up more. It's a little high. But I noticed that my percentage had gone down on him. And I want to be well ahead of the field. I just think there's a lot of paths for him to be the 2 or even a very usable 3 on that team. And I'll take either Theo or Barner here if I get one back. Should get one back. I'm guessing this guy is not taking a tight end. All right, we'll take Theo, another stack with Dart. Did have a nice connection with Theo last year. So I'm saying at 2.562, feeling pretty good about where I'm at. I want to get a third quarterback that I reasonably think can start. But it's does get to be some murky waters. I don't know if I'll pull the trigger on a Tyson Badgett share. Yeah, I'll be interested to see what we hear about. Kenneth Walker. Seahawks have basically said we're not going to franchise tag Kenneth Walker, but we want to work out a deal. And Jaguars aren't expected to franchise ETN. Those two are interesting. I think they both command some serious free agent dollars, but I think both of their teams want them back. One piece of news I posted in Discord, and then I saw even a follow-up is sounds like Zach Ertz wants to keep playing. And apparently Adam Peters and company have said that they are monitoring the situation. I've already had some talks with them. I think the quote was keeping the door open. So, maybe all this thought of Washington going out and signing Likely or Goddard or somebody like that, that might end up not being the case. Now, I don't know if they'd feel confident just bringing in Zach Ertz. Maybe I could see them trying to combine a situation, maybe do like a Zach Ertz and a lesser tight end. I don't know. Chig's price will be too high. I wonder, the guy who I think is kind of interesting out there would be Charlie Kohler. He just never got any opportunity with Baltimore between Andrews and Likely. And he's a bit more of an all-around tight end. Washington loves John Bates as a blocker, but maybe they see Kohler and Ertz. They could Frankenstein a tight end room. Of course, they still have Ben Sinnott, but I just don't get the indication that he's going to be a massive part of their team. So Tucker goes. I get my guy Elijah Surratt back, so feel good there. So now seeing 257. Probably will just still stop at 5 running backs. I put a lot of capital into it. Most of the depth running backs I like. Seeing guys like Brian Robinson and stuff go off the board, I don't need to get in the mix. So I think I will end up 9 receivers, add 1 more tight end. I take a lot of Dalton Schultz. I do like Gunnar Helm, but I mean, I'm just going to keep taking a guy who 5 of the last years has over at least 114 points, if not more. Just seems way too consistent to be going pick 196. And I don't think Cade Stover is taking his job. They seem to really like him. CJ Stroud, who the Texans have said is not being traded, seems to really like Dalton Schultz. So, yeah, I think, I could add a 4th tight end, but I think I'm pretty happy with this room. Juwan Johnson, Theo Johnson, Dalton Schultz. Receivers. Puka Neighbors kind of like my double anchor, and then I'm going to throw some volume at it with Xavier Worthy, Denzel Boston, Jane Reed, Trey Harris, and Elijah Surratt, probably adding 2 more there. Running back room, Josh Jacobs, Cam Scatterbu, Javonte Williams, Ramondre Stevenson. I think that's 4 starting running backs. And then Emma Johnson, one of the rookies who I think has the highest upside. Hopefully he can get a nice little landing spot. So I do want a 3rd quarterback. Those are my 2 top priorities. Cousins goes. Those are probably my next 2. I don't know if Derek Carr will be back. The reason I have Mac Jones rated so low is I just don't think he's going to get San Francisco is going to let him out of the building. It just feels like the, given Kyle Shanahan's history, just going back all these years with Jimmy Garoppolo, it's like anytime Garoppolo got hurt up until the Purdy emergence, anytime Garoppolo got hurt, they had no answer and they were just a terrible team. And same thing with Brock Purdy. Having a good backup, I think, means a lot to them. So I don't have a ton of Tua, but I also, Tua to me is the toughest guy to find a fit for. I think Geno actually ends up in a better situation. Let's take Cooper Kupp first, though, since at this point I think we're just throwing darts at this point at quarterback. Anthony Richardson, I see the same thing. I think he gets traded, but I don't really think it's for a team who's going to put him as a starter. Justin Fields, probably the same sort of thing. He's going to get cut. Somebody will sign him, but I don't think there's a clear path to starting Marcus Mariota, I think, has a clearer path to starting than the other guys I just mentioned, but far from a guarantee. Let's do Tua. I'm very hesitant on it, but well, I mean, I could consider a fourth quarterback. I actually like how this receiver room turned out with the double anchor and then 7 guys who feel like a path to be pretty good role. So maybe if no receiver jumps out at me, I'll add like a Geno or Mariota just for some extra insurance on this team. Got Peppertoni checking in. Hope you're doing well. Just doing first draft of the day. Going to do another and then jump over to Huheim's stream to talk combine and some rookies that we want to see perform well. Maybe I'll just take a late receiver shot to mix it up. Go over after this. I'll go over mine and Danimal's team. I have a ton of Jeremy Bernard, so I'll hesitate from making that click. I'll just go Christian Kirk. I think he, might be a veteran slot receiver somewhere. Give me a little bit more of a floor for this team. So my team ends up being 3-5-9-3. Dart, Kyler Murray, and then Tua. Don't feel too confident about Tua, but like the upside potential that Dart and Murray give me. Running backs, Josh Jacobs, Cam Scatterbu, Javonte Williams, Ramondre Stevenson, and Emmett Johnson. I think it's a very, very strong room, especially without even taking one of the first 2 rounds. Wide receivers, Puka Nacua, Malik Neighbors, Xavier Worthy, Denzel Boston, Jaden Reed, Trey Harris, Elijah Surratt, Cooper Kupp, and Christian Kirk. So kind of balancing some youth and, veterans at the end there. Of course, hopefully Puka and Neighbors are really carrying this team. Then a tight end room, Juwan Johnson, Theo Johnson, and Dalton Schultz. I think it's pretty strong, particularly with, basically waiting to pick 150 to take my first one. Danimal, he went with 4 quarterbacks, 4-6-8-2. Jaden Daniels, Bryce Young, took J.J. McCarthy, but also took Aaron Rodgers. I think it's a solid insurance policy in case McCarthy does kind of not really have much of a role this year. He went the double anchor, McCaffrey, Henry. Then he waited, take David Montgomery, Tom Tracy, Alvin Kamara. I think those are all fine clicks. And then Najee Harris, he's going to be a free agent. We'll see where he ends up. Got some reports earlier that he seems to be ahead of schedule. Or should be ready to go to start the year. So that seems promising. Took 4 receivers in the top 100. Degen, Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, Parker Washington. Add on Jerry Jeudy, Omar Cooper, definitely one of my later round favorites. Donnie Mitchell and Malik Washington, and then just went 2 tight ends, but 2 very good tight ends in Sam Laporta and Jake Ferguson. So I like that team. We will get back into another draft in a second. And, I think we're going to have more and more news coming out through the combine with all these teams, kind of figuring out how they want to spend their money and what they're going to prioritize. I appreciate that, Daniel. Liked your draft as well. We got JB checking in, GM, GA, G, Best Ball Peeps. Steve, which stack team do you believe you don't have enough of or would like to get more due to their overvalued, too much uncertainty, etc.? That's a really good question. I think so. I'll say let me just bring up the rankings and let's talk about this for a second. I think the overvalued one that's tough for me right now, I'll give 2. One, honestly, Jane Daniels and Terry McLaurin. McLaurin goes in a, kind of tough range of, I think he's good, but this is where the uncertainty comes in, because depending on what Washington does, they're going to add receivers and or tight ends. I think the level that they add them determines just how high of a ceiling Terry McLaurin has. 2 years ago, when he was like the only one there with Zach Ertz, but kind of the only game in town, he had just a massive year. Last year, even without the injury, having Debo probably would have limited him a little bit more. Of course, the quarterback play, not just his injury, but the quarterback play was way down with Jaden's injuries. And so the tough thing is, while Jaden definitely has even QB1 upside, he just goes in a range it's so clumped together. Like, we know what May can do. We know what a healthy Burrow can do. So it's the same argument we're making for Burrow and Daniels. Caleb Williams, the way he closed out last year, Jalen Hurts, him historically. So it's just tough that Daniels goes at the top of that list now. Like, when May was going before him, Caleb was going before him a little bit. But between, Terry's price is fine, and I have a good chunk of it, but it's not something I feel like I have to stack. So I don't necessarily prioritize Jaden, because a lot of times Jaden just doesn't come back since they go so close together. The other one, so that's like the uncertainty and a little / overvalued. The other one that I don't feel like I have a lot of, I would probably point to in this mid-tier, Dak, because as much as I love Dak, he's moved up the board where a lot of times you have to take him at like pick 74, 75 to pair him with either Lamb or Pickens, because they go roughly in the same range. So I just don't feel like I'm getting enough Dak. So lately, I was saying the last week, I have been pointing him up to the 70s, because he started creeping into the 80s, and now I just think you have to take him late 70s to kind of get the stack that you want. So those would be the 2 that have just been kind of tough right now. I mean, I don't have a lot of Mahomes, basically just because the only guy right now I'm definitely stacking him with is Worthy. I think you could stack him backstack with Kelsey, but I'm not taking Rice. So it's just making that harder to get Mahomes right now. And also just he's in a range. Definitely are prioritizing Dak above him. And then, the Purdy, Stafford, Knicks range feels just as good. And you can wait around. I'm trying to balance some exposures. All right, let's get into another draft. We can definitely talk more. Definitely let me know if you guys are seeing anything on Twitter or any other news breaking. I'm going to count it down again. Another big board draft. Enter in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enter. It's still waiting on 4. Yeah, right now it's just interesting to see all the information. This is just saw this come through the timeline. This was a little bit ago. I know Meg will hate this. Adam Peters talking about Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is still under contract, so I can't discuss any possible moves. I love Brandon the person, but can't comment on the player. Well, he might be the only one, Adam Peters, because I'm guessing Ayuk doesn't have a lot of fans in San Francisco right now, and probably a lot of other teams that are very concerned. So I'm not loving that for my Washington Commanders, taking the risk on Brandon Ayuk. I just don't think you can. Like, what's the upside? All right, we are in here in the 5th spot. Daniel's back in the 6th spot. Got plenty of other names I recognize in here. Let me know if anyone else is in the chat. 5th spot, I kind of keep it simple. These 6 players, I'm taking one of them. JB, thanks for the detailed response. I think you should get more 49ers, their prices overall. Yeah, 49ers are tough. Like, I do have a decent amount of Pearsall, and sometimes I do Jennings and Purdy. I also will pair Purdy with McCaffrey because it's like, McCaffrey gets, kind of like Bijan Robinson. If we knew the Falcons quarterback, we could take it. Same thing. I mean, these guys are wide receiver 2s. But yeah, I'm not taking Kittle. So, it's tough because Jennings could definitely move on. And I'm not taking Kittle, but I do like Pearsall quite a bit. Huheem's asking, did you see Hayden's first mock? I haven't. We can look at that. I'll bring that up after I make this pick. I'm going to take JT. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love JSN, but JT is going to be a bit of a tiebreaker for me. Dan was saying I'll try and be nice. Yeah, we are back to back, so I'm sure we'll be sniping each other. But hopefully, once again, we can both make it through this pod. Let me bring up. See if I can bring up Hayden's mock as this draft goes on. Let me go to the board. Oh, it's a video. I see in the thumbnail, Jeremiah Love at 13. I'm getting, it's a trade down to Washington. So that'd be a trade down. I think with the Rams, looks like that'd be an interesting one. I honestly would not hate Jeremiah Love. I don't love him in top 10. But if you traded back and got Jeremiah Love, I think that's kind of a steal. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could really get on board, especially if you're trading back for it. Because I just don't trust JCM, and I think they could really use stabilizing back to help Jaden. Like, we see how important it is. Like Lamar and Josh Allen are great quarterbacks, but boy, it's nice that they have a top end running back that they can rely on as well. We saw this, Saquon with Jalen Hurts. Like, it can matter quite a bit, even for these, dual threat top end quarterbacks. I just see the thumbnail has Carnell Tate to Kansas City. How do you feel about that, Huheems? So Pickens goes. Danimal takes Pickens. Definitely my wide receiver in the range. So I'll just take Saquon. JT Saquon start. Let's go. I'm saying doesn't believe Carnell Tate will happen, but that's the dream. I mean, I'll have to see the mock, but particularly if things like a Caleb Downs is going in the top 10, or Jeremiah Love. I mean, that's going to push a receiver down. There are not many teams in the top 10 need receivers. And I know Hayden's been really talking up the Giants taking a receiver. Not sure if he had that in his mock or not. But it's, like we kind of know for a fact, obviously Raiders are taking Mendoza. Then we have the Jets, Cardinals. Neither one should be taking receiver at 2 or 3. Tennessee could, but I think it all depends on what they do in free agency. If they sign a big name, I don't know if they will. Same with the Giants. Cleveland, I think if offensive line's there, they could prioritize that over receiver. And then Washington is in the mix also. But in this situation, if they trade back, yeah. We'll go Olave. So I think it's that Cleveland, Washington Saints run right before a Kansas City pick to see what, how many of those would take a receiver. The Titans I think those are the 4 teams ahead of Kansas City that are most live to take a receiver. I don't really think the Giants, I know some out there really believe they could. JB saying, I don't know if Jennings will be coming back and breaking neck to the fan base, but reports out here. Jordan was unimpactful for him last year, took a lot of heat. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't do himself any favors when he goes after every corner and the other team's players, because then your team has a target on their back. So, my gut is the 49ers want to upgrade the position, with the Ayuk fiasco. And Jennings is the safe play, but if they get a shot at Mike Evans, Alec Pierce, they go that route instead. They could look for Romeo Doubs, who's probably slightly better than Jennings. Like I mentioned, Wandale maybe as a slot guy. Debo could come back. So I agree. I think the 49ers could go in a different route for sure. Jennings is a guy who probably should be in the second tier free agency and see what starting roles are left. I wouldn't expect him to be one of the first guys to sign. Jane's gone from 2 years ago, the only happy wide receiver in San Francisco out of Debo. Ayuk now push himself out of the team with his attitude is kind of funny. Yeah, well, because of the Ayuk injury and Debo injuries, he had to really step up that year. And then it was like, well, I want to get paid more. And 49ers had just given him an extension, kind of, making one of the highest priced, number 3 receivers in the league. We'll take JMO here. Mentioned this with the stream with Huheems last week. JMO is not a guy who I think will vastly outplay this area, but he is, should be very consistent for this, this pick in the 4th round. And I don't know if it's just because of the Ayuk debacle or whatever, but 49ers have a fair amount of cap space, and sure, some needs to be spent O-line and defense. But I don't think people seem to really be connecting that they could make a big splash in free agency. They haven't done it much recently just because they've been dealing with so many cap, things with Bosa and the receivers and McCaffrey and Kittle, etc. that they actually have money to spend, and their window is a closing. So I expect them to be pretty aggressive this year to try and build out a team that can compete for that insane NFC West. Well, we'll take the Tate, Carnell Tate here. Maybe he goes to Kansas City. That would be a fun spot. And, I haven't watched the mock yet, but I do like the idea of the Rams getting aggressive. Not sure what he had them take it with their other first rounder, but I don't see them taking Ty Simpson in the first round. If I'm the Rams, yes, probably Stafford's last year, but go all in. Like Ty Simpson, just not worth spending a first round pick, in my opinion, when you can, like maybe get that last piece to put you over the top. Even sometimes when you are right by taking that young quarterback, like the Packers and Jordan Love, you still wonder if they would have won the Super Bowl if they had, they traded up for Jordan Love. I think gave up a fourth rounder. They could have stayed where they were at, taken T. Higgins, given Aaron Rodgers his other top weapon to go along with Devontae Adams, and then also had a fourth rounder. And maybe they win a Super Bowl. Oh boy, Meg's coming in to put music on. I didn't get a chance to put music on. Running late today, but it is nice to have some background music. Let's see what we have here. I don't take a lot of Brian Thomas. It's much more palatable to add him to this team. We're now sitting at 0-2-4-0. Danimal is at 1-1-4-0. He started 4 wide receivers, got the Terry Daniel stack again, and then Ramondre. I see this quote from Andrew Berry on the Browns QB1. We don't have to make that decision anytime soon. So not exactly a ringing endorsement for Shedeur Sanders. Let's go Ricky P. We're going to keep building out receiver. Would have loved for Trevor Lawrence to get back to me, so just missed that. That would have been fun. And usually he does, or generally is in this range. So like how this receiver room has come together, just a ton of upside in it. Double anchor running back. We'll need to catch up a little bit there. And of course, get some quarterbacks. I actually have some, a couple stacks I could target coming up. I don't know. The Chuba Hubbard, he seems to keep going up, and not sure if I'm there. I've not seen any reports that make it clear. Like if we knew he was clearly going to be the lead back, that's one thing. But if not just with Jonathan Brooks, but could they sign a cheap free agent? Could they, like they did last year, could they draft somebody? Like if we see in the second round, they take Price or Emma Johnson or even Jonah Coleman, how do we feel about this? Now, I need running back help here. Don't take a lot of quorum. Feels a little high for him, Monangai. But I want my quarterback stack, so let me grab Purdy first. So I've taken in Shedeur Sanders a couple times, but I'm definitely waiting till after the free agency run, I think, to take him again. I just worry just about anyone they bring in. If they bring in some veteran, Kirk Cousins being at the high end, but even like a Geno, to somebody like that. Is Todd Monken going to tie his first head coaching job to Shedeur Sanders? I don't know. I think that's a tough situation. To add to the running back room, I like Goff, but I want a third running back, and Jadarian Price at pick 101 feels good. So I'm saying at 1350. Danimal is at 1251. Still a couple teams without a quarterback. Yeah, I agree with this. Like that was posted on Twitter a million times. Monken saying we wanted to draft you, but we didn't get the chance or whatever. It's like, yeah, they wanted to draft him as a fifth rounder back up to Lamar, but do you see him as a starter? I don't know. Like, what if they even bring in like Tyler Huntley, who was just with Monk in Baltimore? Could Huntley be the starter? I think that's possible. So I don't, I like Shedeur's odds of starting better than Deshaun Watson, but I just, I think it all depends on what kind of bodies they bring in free agency. Don't worry as much in the draft. That there was a report that they could target Ty Simpson in the draft. That would be kind of funny because he's the quarterback who I think is the least ready to start as a rookie. So you'd be having Shedeur start over him, and yet, just waiting to turn the keys over. I could see third round Nussmeier giving him, exactly like that. That'd be the problem. Like Garrett Nussmeier, that'd be one of the landing. If it's just Nussmeier and Shedeur Sanders fighting for that job, and Dylan Gabriel, I guess as well. Like, yeah, I think there's a real shot that Nuss could end up starting the majority of the year. Like even if Shedeur starts the season, unless he vastly improves, I could really see Nussmeier taking over. Quarterback, we'll fall on Baker. I don't have a stack going. I think I'll keep building out the running back room. Let's take some rookies here. Jonah Coleman to go along with Darian Price. Emma Johnson was there, but I take a lot of them. Let's mix in some Coleman. So Browns are the situation that I have I'd say the worst feel for. Like, I've heard some reports like the Dolphins could believe in Quinn Ewers. I don't buy that. And they might just bring in a true stopgap veteran. I just don't think they have the money for any top tier veteran. So yeah, Ewers could end up starting down the stretch. If they bring in a Joe Flacco or a Geno Smith, like if things go bad with Geno, like, yeah, they could turn back to Ewers for the last couple games, but I don't think their game plan is Quinn Ewers. At least that would not be my game plan if I was Jeff Hapley. Yeah, and this is the issue. I think Browns and Dolphins, they both want Malik Willis, but those are the two teams with the least amount of money. Like, even the Vikings, who theoretically are very much over the cap, have so many paths to free up money. It's super easy. The Vikings can free up so much more money than Dolphins or Browns, who are technically above them in the cap situation right now. All right, so Emma Johnson came back. We will still probably tack on a 6 late, but took 3 rookies in a row to go with my double anchor. Risky, but if just 2 of these guys get landing spots, then this team could be old. We'll need to catch up at quarterback, though. Didn't like pushing quarterback this much, which is pretty. Yeah, I think cards make the most sense for Malik Willis if they are moving on from Kyler. And on the cards, that's the only way I'd move on from Kyler. Like, unless you feel like it just cannot work with Kyler. Like Jacoby Brissett is not the answer over Kyler Murray. I'm sorry. And like Kirk Cousins, is a 1-year stopgap. Like anyone else is the same sort of thing, but even worse. They're not going to draft anyone. So it's like Malik Willis to the Cards would make a lot of sense. And unlike the Browns and Dolphins and to an extent the Vikings, Cards have a ton of money to spend. Like they could easily, particularly if they trading away Kyler and or Brissett, they trade away both, that frees up a lot of money. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I'd get both Coleman and Emma Johnson, but that's why I took Coleman first to see if I could push it and get Emma Johnson. I do want to get these guys now. I think their prices will rise after this combine. And some of it will then determine like what landing spots end up still being available. Willis goes. I was hoping to get him, but quarterback's kind of fallen in this group. I'm okay with that. Definitely taking one here. Darnold is falling, which is intriguing. Chuck was the one guy I have. Doesn't fall. I will take. Daniel takes the smart call on Darnold, so I'll take Kyler. I think when I update my rankings, I'm definitely moving Kyler and Willis up. Definitely over Mendoza. Probably Kyler even over like Darnold and Chuck. So I'm not going to take running back here, but now feel really good about it. This is my favorite tight end range to start. If I could wait. Receiver, not a lot jumping off the page for me right here. Yeah, just going back to this, like I said, Vikings and Cards and Steelers, I think, are the 3 spots that have the most fun. If Willis or Kyler end up in any of those teams, and their value really jumps. And even Rodgers, Rodgers back to the Steelers. I think we can expect more. I know a lot of people are down on it. I get it. But one thing to keep in mind, let's take a quarterback here. We'll do CJ Stroud. Nice little fall there. I have more Mendoza than Stroud. So 3 quarterbacks that are starting. I have my 5 receivers in the top 100. I was able to push 5 running backs in the top 125. Feel good there. So I've done a quarterback. Just need one more running back. Probably 3 receivers, 3 tight ends. But the other thing with Aaron Rodgers is, he had 24 touchdowns last year, but he had that 3-game stretch, and they played 4 games, but he missed the Bears game. But Chargers, then he gets injured early in the Bengals game, misses the Bears game, comes back for Bills game. Chargers and Bills games were his worst games of the year. And the Bengals, he threw 100 yards and had a touchdown before he got injured. But in that stretch, you look at his completion percentage was way down, his yards per attempt, his touchdown rate, all these things were just way down. And just, of course, raw numbers, because he only played 2.5 games versus 4 or 5 games in the other, first quarter, second quarter, in the fourth quarter, with 17 games now. It's a 5-game sample, but if his production had been more normalized during that 4-game stretch, we'd been talking more like 28 to 30 touchdowns. His yards per game was exceedingly low. And again, somewhat due to the injury, but his other 2 worst games, Chargers and Bills, were in that 4-game sample. So, in a more normalized season, we probably could have talked about another couple 100 yards for Rodgers, another couple touchdowns. Doesn't massively move the needle, but just shows how strong of a floor play. And that's in the Arthur Smith offense. I think the Mike McCarthy offense is going to be an upgrade, and that's also with only 1 receiver. It was DK Metcalf. It was just bad. The receiver production in Pittsburgh after Metcalf. So while I don't think we should treat Aaron Rodgers like he's going to be MVP again, if he's back with Mike McCarthy and they add a weapon or 2, could he throw 3,800 yards, 28 to 32 touchdowns? Yeah, absolutely. He threw 28 touchdowns with the Jets the year before. So we will just take Mark Andrews here to start off my tight end room. I also think if Rodgers does retire and the Steelers don't grab either Murray or Willis, I do think they could also be live in the Cousins department. Their offense coordinator, Brian Angelico, he was the pass game coordinator for the Vikings Cousins last 2 years in Minnesota. So there is a little bit of a connection there. Hunter falling, I already have a piece of the Jaguars, but I will take Hunter in the 170s. I'm listed ranked 160. I think his current ADP is not great. But, getting him 2 rounds after his current ADP, even if he is just a part-time receiver, I'm okay with that. I do want to add some more to the tight ends. But overall, this team's coming together pretty well. 3-5-6-1. So I am curious whether you want to project it to be Aaron Rodgers or just in general with the Steelers quarterback opening, where do others rank that? Because to me, I see Mike McCarthy and I think it's a good thing. I think Arthur Smith is a super conservative offense. Like they'd go for some tush pushes on fourth down, but they just were so fine to just settle for field goals time and time again. And I think that was more of an Arthur Smith thing than Aaron Rodgers thing, because you saw sometimes where they would take him off the field and he was pissed. So whether it's Rodgers coming back or one other quarterback, another quarterback like I mentioned, I kind of view the Steelers as pretty promising offensive opportunity here with Mike McCarthy, but I am curious what others view it. So I want to thank everyone for joining. Always appreciate doing these drafts, talking ball. Always a lot of fun. So I like Surratt and Tucker as a seventh receiver, but Dalton Schultz is a stack and I think a great tight end too. A lot of times he slides back. Don't know if I can count on that though. I think I will just take Schultz. I mean, even at ADP, I think there's a lot of value here. And I like just having a little bit more security. I probably could stop at 5 running backs if need be. Wouldn't mind having another vet just to give a little more security at the end. But no, I was saying thank you everyone for joining. If you haven't liked the episode already, please do. We appreciate that. That helps us out quite a bit. And then after the stream, I know I'm going to talk for a little bit after this draft over Dan Wolf's team and my own again. But after the stream, definitely check out Huheim's channel. I will drop the link in the chat. And also drop a comment on our channel. That helps us out quite a bit. So we appreciate all the support. As always, you can join our free Discord and take a look at our Substack as well. Coming up in 2 picks, can I get Surratt back? I do. That feels good. And probably would not have gotten Schultz seeing 3 tight ends go off the board here. So I made the right call. So one thing, this is not an offense player, but there was some discussion in our Discord about the Raiders and Max Crosby. I think they could trade him. My guess is they do keep him. A lot of times I know Micah Parsons just got traded, but a lot of times these trade requests, as we saw with Myles Garrett last year at this time, they just don't come to fruition. Can I make the case for trading Crosby if you get a Micah Parsons type deal? Absolutely. But I would just guess new coaching staff, you send Tom Brady to talk to him, like you send the new coaching staff. You can smooth over a lot of ruffled feathers there. Just say, hey, we believe in you. We're going to build around you. And I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't end up happening. But I do think if he is traded, they should trade him before the draft. Probably get another first rounder and then a lot more. And then that actually becomes really interesting for the Raiders because then their defense is fairly devoid at that point. But that first rounder could become an offensive lineman, could become a top receiver to pair with Mendoza. So just a lot of interesting ways that can shake out. I don't need quarterback. I'm going to pull up Naj here, because the other, like taking another rookie like Mike Washington, Claiborne, or young guy, I don't think makes sense for this room. And I'm good going the 3-6-7 or 3-6-8-3 build. I'm strong enough, I feel, at every position to do so. Now just focus on receiver and tight end. I'm going to guess Max isn't quarterback friendly, Brady. Yeah, I mean, it's not, I don't know what his relationship with Brady, but it's just like, that's a hella good voice to go talk to him and just calm things down, right? Like a guy who, wants to win and, just could do it. But I guess I could see either side. I could see a trade if you get a Parsons like, deal. But I could also just see them, working it out. I think I need to take a tight end here. I'll take Eli Stowers. This, after Sadiq, this is the one rookie I want to be kind of not at 8%, but 4 or 5%. I think this room is strong enough with Andrews and Schultz. There's enough of a floor there. Taking Stowers can fit. I'm fine kind of taking whatever receiver is left. If Pat Frymuth had been there, would have taken him. I think Kate Ottenly, Daniel takes, Chig, Gesicki, those are fine clicks as well. But I want a little percentage of Stowers, and I actually think he could do decently well at the combine. Wouldn't be surprised if, because he gets some buzz, we just see his ADP rise a couple rounds. Like, again, nothing crazy, but he could start going instead of 19-20, he could start going 17. So let's take a shot or two more here. So you do see, I saw a report, Dave Canales says OC Brad Idzik to call plays for the Panthers in 2026. I think Canales was calling plays, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be a change. That would represent even another play caller change, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to double check if Idzik was calling plays last year or not. If anyone knows in the chat, definitely feel free to drop that in. I don't have a lot of Jalen Knoll, but I think 20th round click and a Stroud team, I think it's fine. I like Knoll better than Tank Dell, particularly at cost. But honestly, in general, I think it's probably pretty decent. So that wraps up my team. I'll go over mine and Danimal's team, hit up the chat, and then I'll drop a link to Huheim's channel in a second. Just trying to look at any other news that's out there right now. I was looking at Hayden's mock. His Jordan Tyson going to the Steelers at 21. I mean, if Tyson lasts 21, that to me is a steal. And Tyson, Pittsburgh, I don't know. I kind of see the Steelers offense being fun this year. I mean, I think Rodgers is like the floor, or Cousins. I think they're like the floor. Like, if you have Willis or Murray, it could be pretty entertaining. So I also wonder what they're going to do at running back. Bring back Gainwell, bring in another vet. Just try and rock with Warren and Caleb Johnson. Definitely a few different ways it could go. Hayden had Casey Concepcion to the Rams with their second pick. I mean, from a need standpoint, I actually get that quite a bit. They need a field stretcher. I think he could offer that to them. Would not be a good landing spot for him, obviously. Denzel Boston to the Bills. That is super fun. That would be like the ideal landing spot for Denzel Boston. Sadiq to the Broncos is actually probably the ideal landing spot for Sadiq as well. So let me go over my team, and I'll do Danimal's team. I went 3-6-8-3, so standard build: Purdy, Kyler Murray, CJ Stroud. I think that's 3 starters, and didn't take the first one till 92. JT Barkley, so double anchored the running backs, then hit the rookie window that, I think these are second, third round picks at worst. My end of the day guess is 2 of these guys are second rounders, 1 is a third rounder. Whether it's Bryce and Emmett are the second rounders, Jonah and Emmett, some combo, I think. But all 3 could end up being second rounders. But at worst, they're going in the third round. I think that's fine. Could still end up with dependent on landing spot being buying clicks. And then now it's just kind of like a late insurance policy. We'll have to see where he ends up. So a lot of uncertainty in this running back room, but a lot of potential to get at least secondary roles, if not a couple starting jobs. Wide receivers, took 5 early, so I was able to then really pivot and wait on it. Olave, Jamo, Carnell Tate, Brian Thomas, and Ricky P. So, 1 rookie in there, but a lot of guys who project as 1s or very good 2s, like in the case of Jameson Williams, and maybe Brian Thomas could be either way. Got the Travis Hunter fall. This is where I'd love to see him go more. I would take him a lot more in the late 160s, early 170s. Got Elijah Surratt, like a 20 pick fall there. And then Jalen Knoll got even a little fall there as well. So we got him, I think, what turned out to be a pretty good receiver room. And then here, Mark Andrews, Dalton Schultz, 2 vets I feel good about. I think are both undervalued. And then took a rookie upside shot in Stowers to see if I can get a nice little landing spot. Danimal's team, 2-8-7-3. The 8 does not surprise me because I remember he, was kind of doing a 0 RB build. Daniels and Darnold got super nice value on Darnold. He took him right before my Kyler pick. I was essentially going to take one of those 2. So made the decision for me. But yeah, like 16, 17 pick value on Darnold. Ramondre, David Montgomery, Tyron Tracy, Taj Spears, Joe Mixon, Keaton Mitchell, Ray Davis, Brashard Smith. So throwing, Ramondre is like the one guy you feel good about. Monty and Tracy are pretty solid roles that you also have some confidence in. But then, just taking shots, throw volume at it, even taking some guys ahead of ADB to ensure you're getting the guys that you're looking for. I don't have a problem with at all. Because also, like, if you're right on the call, they return value. And Tracy is, because after Tracy, it's like a huge kind of break in running backs that you have any confidence level in. So I get that quite a bit. JSN makes the Darnold fall pick even better. George Pickens, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, Khalil Shakir, and then just took the Tyreek Hill lotto ticket to round it out. Even if Hill is a bust, this is a super strong wide receiver room. And then finally, tight end Tyler Warren, and then 2 late round shots, Cade Otton. And we talked about earlier, Zach Ertz doesn't sound like he's ready to hang it up. We'll see where he ends up. So 20th round click, not bad. If he's back in Washington, could really pay off. Let me hit up chat. We got Losimo checking in, GM. We got Off the Schneid. What's up, Steve? Hope you're doing well, Cody. Just did a couple drafts. About to jump on Huhaim's channel in a minute. So I'm going to drop a stream link there. But yeah, really, really excited this week at the Combine. We're getting all this free agency news. So a lot of fun things to talk about. And then, we're going to see some ADP shifts. Speaking of, Dan will talk, missed Javonte by a few picks. Good stream, Steve. Appreciate that. Yeah, Javonte generally has been rising. He went, where did he go in this draft? 42. So yeah, he is rising. I still got him like 49 something in the last draft, or 50. Or maybe even slightly lower. So it's not every time, but he is rising. It makes sense. We just have more certainty with him than even, like the ETN, Walker, Breece Hall. The Hall one just, I'm sorry, scares me. I just cannot be taking him at 26 if he's still in the Jets. Though that could change if they build up enough around him. Mike Rob, mainstream, great stream. Great daily show routine. Got going. 1K is not too far away. Yes, we are nearing the 1K mark. Subs, help us get there. We're going to do a 24-hour live stream, do some other things to help celebrate that. So we're excited for that quite a bit. We feel it's just around the corner. Let me jump in. Let me grab Huheim's stream, and we will get on out of here so I can grab a drink, run to the bathroom before I jump on with Huheim's and talk rookies at the combine. So give me 1 second. This should be stream. So I'll be on at 3 p.m. there. I'm going to get on out here in a second, but thank you everyone for joining. Enjoy Combine Week, all the NFL news. Good luck with your drafts. I'll be back tomorrow. It'll be slightly later, probably more like 2 p.m. tomorrow. Thursday might be a little earlier, just with how my schedule is. That'll probably be a shorter stream. Then I'll be on Thursday night with Meg. Sibling Showdown. I'll definitely be doing streams Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Need to figure out the times. 1 or 2 might be during, right in the combine window. Maybe I'll do it one of them night of the later at night, over the weekend. I'll have to just see what works, what makes sense. But anyways, thank you everyone for joining, liking this episode, all the support. We will catch you tomorrow. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Talk to you later.